great turnout. Now we see a lot of new faces. For those of you that are new to PICRA, let me just give you a quick introduction. Professional Iranian Canadian Real Estate Association. This is the 7th year that we are in operation, and we have seminars such as this free for the realtors in Ontario and for anybody who wants to be a member of us, of course. Lots of affiliates. Now, we have one of our affiliates here from Apostrophe Solutions. I'm just going to hand the mic over to him for a minute to introduce himself and his services, and then I'll start again. Mr. Ali from Apostrophe Solutions.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Good morning. Sabakhair. Thank you all for coming here. My name is Ali Riziat, and I'm from Apostrophe Solutions. We're the developers of Remarketer. It's an all-in-one marketing platform specifically developed for real estate agents. The platform that we built is built around 3 main objectives. One is customization, the way a real estate agent wants to have his or her marketing platform customized, with deep MLS integration so that you can customize your services around the most important offering, that is listings. Second, it's utilization. So we've created a lot of integration with social media platforms as well as your email campaigns to have an effective communication with your clients. And finally, analysis. So we have very interesting tools in the platform so that you can analyze and monitor and truly manage this most important marketing channel of yours online. It's built in a easy-to-use management console and equipped with a very modern website. And we promise, Richard, that it's all paperless. Thank you very much. My colleague and I are going to be here. If you have any questions, our pamphlets are on the chairs as well. If you take a look, it would be great. Thank you so much.
Do you have a table somewhere?
No, we're just going to be hanging around with you. Thank you.
Great. Now, putting this seminar together has taken several weeks of organization by several members. First of all, a humble thanks to the board of PICRA for their hard work in the past several weeks putting this seminar together. A lot of emails have gone out, so I'd like to ask thank the technology committee, Mr. Bali Nasab, wherever you are. Thank you for sending the emails, setting up Facebook event and website event and so on. Thank you. Special thanks to Mr. Rafizadeh and Mrs. Zaina Leon for organizing this event in the past several weeks. Lots of hard work. Thank you guys, wherever you are sitting. Okay, can't see that. Okay, also I should mention that PICRA is a volunteer-based organization and we are always looking for volunteers. So if you have a few hours per week, per month, please come and see us. We could always use your services and your expertise. Okay, so we have a great seminars for you guys today. I won't take up too much of your time. I just want to give a little introduction. And just in case if you don't know him, and I've been living under the rock, and we've got Mr. Richard Silver here today. He is with the Sotheby's International Realty, leads the Torontoism team, a great blog. He is in the top 1%, consistently in the top 1% of Toronto Real Estate Board. So lots of sales, okay. He is the Director at Large of Canadian Real Estate Association. He sits on 2 committees at the National Association of Realtors in the US. He is the VP of the Toronto branch for the Asian Real Estate Association of America. He is the founder of the Toronto Real Estate Bar Camp. I'm sorry if I'm... and Inman News has named him one of the top 100 most influential people in real estate in the past couple of years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, please put it together for Mr. Richard Silver.
Good morning. So let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we even start. You don't have to worry about taking notes or photographing those screens, because I will at the end of today, I'll give you a link to where you can find it on the internet. I will give everybody here your board links as well. They can send them out to you and show you where you can just go and click and find all the screens. So don't worry about writing down too much. Listen as much as you can. Normally this session takes me between 2 and 3 hours, maybe 5 or 6 hours. No, but we will do it. I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. And it is fairly basic. It's going to help you try and become more paperless. Paperless, I'm not too sure whether it's a reality or it's a goal. Okay? It would be a wonderful goal to be totally paperless, but I'm sure there's a lot of you who would like to have your garage back. You would like to have that room in your basement back, that you have all those files stored. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about paperless. And I'm using a new system today, so let me just see how this works. There's one part I just want to make sure that so, I'm sure you can relate to that. You want very much to learn about being paperless, but the reality is it's not often easy to convert other people to being paperless as well. So, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about the 4 different parts of paperless today. Okay, we're going to talk about document creation, so how you can create documents paperlessly, how you can sign them. How many of you are using signing, one of the signing tools right now? Okay, hopefully by today you'll all be using all the signing tools and you'll be enjoying that because it's a great bonus to our business. Then we're going to talk about document storage for those of you who are agents, brokers, teams, etc. And we're going to talk about document organization. This is one of these platforms that keeps on wanting me to sign up for more. So let's talk about document creation and signing. How many of you are using web forms? Yes? Okay. So web forms is one of the basics. Web forms is based on PDF. All right. We're going to talk about another system that's out there that's available in Ontario that's based on what we call HTML5. But with PDFs, now, how many of you have got web forms and you're using it? Okay. See up here it says add-on services. If you go, when you're on web forms and you click on add-on services, you're going to see something that looks like, oops, something that looks like this. All right? That is going to allow you to sign up for either DocuSign, AuthentiSign, Transaction Desk, or Fall Tour. And those are signing platforms, they're signing and storage platforms. So those of you who are on web forms right now, all you have to do is to go to where it says add-on services. There'll be a drop-down, you'll see that screen, and you can sign up through RealtorLink or Toronto MLS, however you're doing. You can sign up and you can get the signing format, and it attaches to web forms. So what will happen is, right now you're seeing 2 of these as a drop-down. Those of you who use that send to email, you will now be able to send to DocuSign. All right? DocuSign or Fall Tour. DocuSign costs $199 for all Korea members, and that's for 1 year. Fall Tour is $179, and Instinet is about $39. Any of you using DocuSign or no? Anybody using DocuSign? Yeah? DocuSign is great. DocuSign is very easy to use. And DocuSign also gives you one of the most important things about electronic signatures, and we're going to talk about that, is that you have, with an electronic signature, you have the document that goes back and forth. To understand electronic signatures, what you have to know is this. The agreement of purchase and sale does not travel from me to Tracy, from Tracy to somebody else, Shadia. It doesn't travel. It actually stays on the server, and what happens is I go in and access it, Tracy goes in and accesses it, Shadia goes in and accesses it, and then at the end of the day you get a finished product. All right? So it's a little bit different than when you have a fax and it goes from one person to the next person to the next person to the next person. It doesn't. It resides on the server, and what you do is you allow everybody access to go in and sign it, and that's the basis of electronic signatures and electronic documents. So when you've signed up, and those of you who hopefully go up, you can also, with Fall Tour, DocuSign, and this other one I'm going to talk about, which is called Deal Tap, you can actually go and sign up for a 30-day free trial. So I think everybody should go and just sign up, start playing with it, send it to friends, try sending documents back and forth. You can now do the agreement of purchase and sale. And in the year 2000, believe it or not, the Ontario government, and it was government province by province by province across Canada, the government of Ontario created what they call the Electronic Commerce Act. And there was only one thing that was not in the act, and that was the agreement of purchase and sale. But since the 1st of July, it is now in the act. It was approved 2 years ago, and then it went through a lot of search, and they were trying it out and testing it and everything. And the most important thing that RICO and the government want to see is they want to be able to see the paper trail. And I'm going to show you how you can get the paper trail on electronic signatures, and it's not in front of you. They were in another country, they were in another city, they were in another job. What they had to do is they had to send a telegram. Any of you know what a telegram is? They had to send a telegram that said, I authorize you to accept on my behalf, or I authorize this agreement of purchase and sale. And that's the way we used to do it. And then we, all of a sudden, we had fax machines. And everybody went, fax machines, great. I think before we had telegrams, we actually had smoke signals. So now we have this. And this is really going to be a huge difference, especially, I mean, you know, we're all dealing with, the most recent survey of the Canadian Real Estate Association says that 30% of our membership is dealing on an ongoing basis with foreign buyers and sellers. And, you know, somebody's not in the country, and even if they are in the country, if you're in Thornhill and they're downtown at their office and you're going to drive down, I mean, do you still want to do that, driving back and forth just to get one initial? So this is going to be a game changer for us. So now it's changed, and we can do it on the agreement of purchase and sale. And again, those are the options you have through CREA. All right, CREA has web forms. I'm on the Technology Council at CREA. So years ago, CREA, whether it was lucky or not, was able to buy web forms, and it was done by Fraser Valley, had set up web forms, and web forms is now pretty much what most of us are used to, and it's based on PDF. So, I don't know if I like this little thing. So, DocuSign, here's what happens. So you create an agreement of purchase and sale, and you send it through to DocuSign. And this is what it looks like when you get it in DocuSign. And you put, at the top, you put the people who are having to sign it, whether it's the seller or the buyer or the agent, and you decide, you say whether they're going to be signing it, whether they're going to be viewing it. Some of you may have assistants, and the assistants or the company manager or whatever, and you want them to be able to see it but not to make changes, and they don't have to sign automatically, like their initials, their signatures, the dates. All of that's done, and it's actually quite easy to manage and do. And strangely enough, I've probably done, I think, about 110, 112 documents back and forth, whether they're agreements of purchase and sale, or listings, or amendments. I really haven't had any problem. There's been a couple of good questions, and we'll talk about them, because there are some issues that you just have to be aware of. So, what's important is if you have, and this is one of the things that's going to come up, if you have two sellers, you can't send it to fredandginger@gmail.com. Okay? Fred has to, well, it's best if Fred has his own email address and Ginger has their own email address. And also, what you're going to hear people say is, I got it, and it was sent to me, and I went to print it, but my husband can't sign it. So what happens is, remember, it resides on the server. The husband goes in and signs it. The wife goes in and signs it. You can at any time print it out and just go back to being a paper agreement of purchase and sale. But most of the time, you want to keep it in the server. And at the end of the day, when it's all finished, everybody gets a PDF copy, and your clients get it, you get it, and it's finished. The document is finished. All right? So, what's really wonderful is not only at the end of the day do you get the finished product, but you get the history. And it shows you which computer it went to, which IP address it went to, when the client opened it, when the client signed it, the time, the date, and everything. Because sometimes somebody's, I've had a complaint, say, from a mortgage company, and they say, well, your client didn't sign for acceptance, you didn't put the time in. So I just send them the history, or what they also call the certificate, and it has everything. It actually says exactly what time, what computer they were at, where they were at, etc. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, much cleaner process than you would have when you do an agreement of purchase and sale by fax. Yes?
Sorry, with regard to signing online, many agents nowadays don't witness the documents that they send.
Yeah, you don't have to witness. Yeah, you do not have to witness. That's one of the questions that comes up. How come I don't get a chance to? You can only witness what you witness. Same thing if you're sending fax back and forth. You have an agreement of purchase and sale, and you're doing it by fax. When it comes in, if you were not there to witness, don't witness it. You know, if you get it and you were not there to witness the seller signing it or the buyer signing it, do not all of a sudden leave it, because that's fraud. Okay, you do not have to witness it. Okay? So the history is amazing because it has all the information you would ever need if you ended up, you know, if there was some sort of discrepancy or some communication that, you know, the lawyer or the mortgage company said, no, I need this. It's all there. So I've had a couple of questions from lawyers, I've had a couple of questions from mortgage people, and I've sent them this and they've said, oh, brilliant. They love it. Because it's much more detailed than you would have ever had with a fax. So Fall Tour is a Canadian-based company which also allows for the, are any of you working with companies that have instituted Fall Tour? Because sometimes the brokerages have gone and they've moved to Fall Tour. What people like about Fall Tour is, first of all, it's a Canadian company, so the documents are stored in Canada. You don't have to worry about the issue. Sometimes with DocuSign, people are worried because their servers may be in the US. And in the US, they have this thing called the Patriot Act, which allows them a lot of access. And people may be worried about it. That's not something that's a big worry for me. But anyways, you can, again, it's the same kind of a signing program. It is bilingual though. So you can do English and French. So if you have clients in French, you can translate whatever, you get the documents. However, most agreements of purchase and sale in the province of Ontario are in English, but at some point we bought our mother-in-law an apartment in Quebec. So the whole transaction was done online in French. So that's an option, and people like Fall Tour because, and some of the brokerages are instituting Fall Tour. Sometimes what's happening is a lot of agents are waiting for the brokerage to make a decision as to what they're going to bring in. I would say don't wait for your brokerage because sometimes it can take them a long time. Learn how to use these, whether it's DocuSign or something like that, or Fall Tour or whatever. Learn how to use it yourself because it'll save you a lot of time. So Fall Tour, same thing, agreement of purchase and sale, all the documents are there. DealTap. DealTap is a Ontario-based company some very, very smart people got together and they created DealTap. The difference with DealTap is DealTap uses HTML5. Now, how many people know what that is? I don't really. It is different than PDF. HTML5 means that it's easier for you to make changes, to alter the document, send it back, to make changes within the document. It's a little bit much more like the difference between having a PDF and typing on it as opposed to having a word processor where you can go in and actually, it's more of a word processor document than it is a PDF document. So with the PDF, it's basically set. With this, you can go in, you can make changes. You can change 3 days to 5 days. You can change the body of the offer. You can make changes. And what they do is, it's also an interesting setup in that they do, you can see the first agreement of purchase and sale, first offer, then the sign back, the buyer sign back, then the seller sign back, then the completed, and they're all there, A, B, C, D, so you can see where they've come from, where they've gone. It's a little bit different. I don't know if you know, but in some parts of Canada and the United States, they actually do counter offers rather than we take one offer, we mark it up, send it back, take it back, mark it up, and send it back. In certain locales, they do the first offer, then the sign back, then the third, et cetera, et cetera. So you actually can see where it's gone and the changes are a little bit more evident. So it's based on HTML5. It doesn't use a PDF, but at any time, somebody can download it in a form. Like if the other side doesn't quite get it and they're not using this system, all they have to do is they can press a button and it'll download the PDF document, and they can start working with that and send it back to you. You can change the tracking and you can change the negotiation, I said, and you can also export deals out of DealTap. So DealTap looks like this. And you can choose and you can go and edit the page. When you edit the page, you can fill in all those different forms. You can fill in the everything. It doesn't necessarily, it does pull from the MLS, but you can also edit and add lots of different things and go in back and forth and make changes. Okay. So, why go paperless? How many of you are working towards going paperless? How many of you would like to be paperless? Everybody here would like to be paperless. Yeah. Why go paperless? So paperless allows you to have all the parties have all the documents. So I'm not too sure if you use the new condo status certificates that you can view, like all three parties can view them and get them online and view them. It's much the same as that. Here you have a document, the buyer can see it, the seller can see it, the lawyer can see it, the manager can see it, everybody can see it, and so it's easy to have accessible documents. The transaction is much faster. Oftentimes I hear people and they say, we're working on this agreement of purchase and sale, and we've been going back and forth for 3 days or 4 days, and you're waiting for the same thing to be signed or initialed or agreed to. It really does put a lot more, speed in the transaction. You'll find that you'll be doing agreements of purchase and sale sometimes 10, 15, 20 minutes, getting the sign back, 5 minutes getting the sign back, and sometimes it actually can be too fast. Because what will happen is, as we know, sometimes the seller will say, okay, well, this is what I would agree to. They sign it back, and automatically it goes to the next party. They made the sign back, they made the change, and then they call you back and say, you know what, I've been thinking about it. I don't know if I want to sign that. Well, it's too late. So what you have to do, and sometimes you might be very careful about this, is if you send a document to your seller, you may not want to automatically forward it to the buyer's agent until you get it back from the seller. So you can set it up so it goes, I could set up an agreement of purchase and sale or a document so that it goes from me as the listing agent to my seller, and then from the seller to the buyer, and the buyer's agent, and then back. But right now, what I've found, I would suggest you do is send it to the seller and get it back from the seller. And then just double check with them, is it okay for me to forward this? This is what we've agreed to. You have to know that by the time, if I forward this right away, it could be accepted and this is what you'll have. So just be very careful with it. In other words, try not to, it's nice and efficient once you've made the changes and you can send it from A to B to C, all of them at the same time, and it'll come back to you in a minute. However, if they change their mind, then it could be an issue. So double check with them. There's a green aspect. How many of you would like to have your basements back? No. I'd like to be able to park my car in my garage. I have a single car garage and I have a great big, file cabinet there. I've never been able to park in my garage. I should have bought a double car garage. I know. So there's the international aspect as well. I'm sure a lot of you are dealing with people from offshore. They need an agreement of purchase and sale. You want to negotiate it. The time is different. And all of that can be accomplished very easily with the internet, with these. And I send you a document. Do you have to be on DocuSign as well to get it? No. You do not have to be on DocuSign to get it. Your client does not have to be on DocuSign to get it. So I send it to you, and it's in the DocuSign system, or it's in the Falltour system. You do not have to be on that system as well. You don't have to have signed up for it. All right? So it's not as if there's not a barrier that way. Consumers, the consumers that I've dealt with have gone, oh my God, this is very cool. Because there's been a couple of times where I've had situations where it's really been hard to get the documents to them within the time prescribed, get them to sign it or make changes, and then send it back to me. So they're liking it, and realtor adoption really is, as long as both parties, you can do it if both parties have the same email address. You can do it, but you don't want to. It's much better if you have each, the husband, the wife, whoever your client is, if they have separate email addresses. So that's one of the things you might want to do. You're going to say, great, can I have your phone number and your email address? That's more going to be the process that you're going to go through now. Okay, and archiving, space benefits. I know that some of you who are brokers of record have your basements are filled with documents. And you have to keep them for 7 years for CRA, but you just want to make sure that you get your buildings back. So, the concerns that people have over documents and paperless, they deal with security. People think, well, they're not secure. Well, I can tell you that they are very secure. And much more secure. That was part of the argument we had with the government, was saying, right now it's okay for me to send a fax to a hotel in China where 15 or 20 people could make changes and sign it back and send it back to me, and that's okay, but electronic signature is not. Electronic document is not. So we had to get them around that. Adoption by all parties, young, old. You know what? A lot of the people I've dealt with who are old, and I'm not young myself, a lot of people I've dealt with, they don't have an issue with it. They're even liking the fact that they only have to sign once, it embeds their signature, saves their signature, and then all the documents, all they have to do is click and click and click and click and click. So it does work that way. Voluntary versus mandatory. How many of you will get paid on an agreement of purchase and sale if you don't have the fin track in the office? Nobody. Yeah? None of us do. Our offices have made it mandatory. And I think you're going to see in the next little while, you're going to see a lot of companies who are going to say it is mandatory for you to submit your documents paperless. We don't want paper. It's happening. All right. A lot of the office staff don't like it because it's a change, but I think you're going to see it happening, and you're going to see brokers of record saying everything has to be submitted paperless. You want to get paid on it, it has to be paperless. So right now it's voluntary, but I think there'll come a time just for storage issues and easeability. I mean, the nice thing is you know about documents. When you've got documents stored on your desk, all you have to do is go up to that little search signal and you can find the document right away. Not necessarily the same when you have filing cabinets. So enforceability is a big thing, voluntary versus mandatory. And enforceability, right now, we haven't had any issue. We haven't had anybody being taken to court over an electronic signature. I don't think you're going to see it, but who knows? There's always somebody who's not happy with, you know, they got into an agreement to purchase sale, and they're not really happy, and they want to find it out. So hopefully you will not be the first one. All right? The reality is, make sure you are using a really good service. In other words, some of you may use PDF Expert. You use PDF Expert on your iPad? No? Okay. PDF Expert, and we'll talk about it in a second. PDF Expert is a wonderful way for you to take an agreement of purchase and sale, save it in PDF Expert, make changes. It allows you to make changes and into the documents. You change the price, you change the closing, whatever you want to do, and then you save it back into Fall Tour or DocuSign, and then you send it on to the person. So it's easy to make changes in PDF Expert. However, PDF Expert at this point is not set up for signing properly and for really to have proper and secure signing. So you want to have very secure signing. But here's some options. How many of you are using Lone Wolf in your back end of the office? A lot of you. Lone Wolf is now, they're becoming the Microsoft, I guess, of Canada real estate. What they want to do is they want to basically have a one-stop shop. In other words, you can do the back end, you can do the deal checklist, you can do the agreement of purchase and sale, you can do the signing and everything through Lone Wolf. So they're really pushing, and they keep on buying companies and adding it. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement from Lone Wolf. The other one, as I mentioned, is Fall Tour. These are for storage. Okay? Fall Tour is another one where you can not only sign the agreement of purchase and sale, but it's a place for you to store it. Okay? So you're going to see companies. Those of you who have Lone Wolf, you may be approached by Lone Wolf and say, we'll provide the back end for you to store it. We'll provide it for all of your agents. They can sign it and they can keep it there. Some of you may be using, and I'm not talking about just documents, but photos and things. How many of you are using Dropbox? Yeah, Dropbox is a great tool for storage. Not dissimilar from the Dropbox, there's this thing called Evernote. How many of you are using Evernote? Okay? Evernote is a little bit more of an organizer than a storage. It sort of does both. Evernote, if you get to work on Evernote, you will quite like it. Basically, I guess the difference would be Dropbox is like a filing cabinet and everything is there alphabetically. Whereas with Evernote, it gives you more of a system of here's what's coming. You can set Evernote up, and that's the way, that's the most important way of doing it, setting it up so that here's what our potential listings, and I'm going to create Evernote files for each of the potential listings, and then here's what our listings, and then here's what our listings that have agreements on them, and then listings that have sold and closed. So Evernote actually, and you could set it up through Dropbox or Google Drive that way, but Evernote is a little bit more user-friendly to set up your whole life. And those of you, how many of you have a team? A team? Yeah? I have a team. This is one of my people. She's her own person, but with the team, what we do is we have team meetings, and we basically, everybody has access to Evernote. So you could call me and ask me when a closing is on one of my properties if you were a client or another agent, but you could also call Tracy. Or you could call everybody else on my team, and they either have access to Evernote on your phone, on your iPhone, or your iPad, or on your PC, whatever. And Evernote is a really great system for you to use. Google Drive. Anybody use Google Drive? Yeah? Google Drive is also really good. And Google Drive has got a lot of strength. I find it's a wonderful place for my photos. It's easy to download or upload them to run real estate, whatever. There are some wonderful pluses about Google Drive, and certain offices, like our office is a Google office, so even though we have Sotheby's.ca email addresses, we're all based on the Google system. So that we can email each other through Google and through Google Drive. The only thing is, if you go to China, no Google, no Facebook, no Twitter. LinkedIn, yes, a little bit, and WeChat. But, so that was one of the big things. We were just in China, Tracy and myself, and all of a sudden we got there and we went to do things, and it became very difficult because we had Google Drive and Google email addresses. So, so document organization, again, organizing your business through Evernote, Google Drive, Dropbox. How many of you have a CRM or know what a CRM is? What's a CRM? Contact managers, customer relationship management. So how many of you are on something like Top Producer? Top Producer, Outlook, yeah. Contactually. Contactually, I just put it up there because Contactually is quite easy to work with and it's very, very user-friendly. And so those of you who have issues and, you know, one of the things I love that's very good about Top Producer is it's got a lot in it. However, sometimes when you need to get that information out and use it on other programs that are not Top Producer-based, it is hell. Okay? Contactually is very, very easy to work with. It's very user-friendly. For those of you who do not have a CRM and you want to start with one, it's not expensive to use Contactually, and it's actually very, very easy. It gives you reminders every day. It allows you to set up your clients in terms of, I'm going to connect with this person once a week, like your listings. I'm going to connect with this person once a month. I'm going to connect with this person once every 6 months. So it sets it up and it allows you, sends you a note every morning and it goes through and it actually has emails and phone numbers and scripts that you might want to use and just say, you know, haven't seen you for a little while, just wondering what's happening, haven't heard from you, etc., etc. And they're all written there. And they make it very, very easy for you. How many of you use your CRM every day? Yeah. It's all about connections. Going to parties, getting cards. Anybody want to give you, take one of my cards and give me one of yours? I'll end up connecting with you. You'll be sorry. You'll get emails once a month, and it'll basically be, this is what's happening. How many of you are sending out regular newsletters? Okay, it should be, every hand should be up, guys. Every hand. A lot of real estate is just connecting with people on an ongoing basis. You know, you don't have to, you know, why would you be afraid to connect with people? You don't have to. You just, you know, let them know you're there. Always give them some information though. Don't just connect with people to connect. Give them something to think about, give them some information about their house, information about a great restaurant that you went to. Always paper with information about what you're doing. If you go onto my website, there's, you know, community information, obviously lots of information about food. I love to eat, places that I've gone to, restaurants, you know. So that's what people want to know about. But they also want to know that you are out there selling real estate and you're doing things like that. So make sure that you're using a good CRM. So Dropbox, getting back to storage, and let's separate these out. Dropbox, how many people are using Dropbox? Now what's interesting, and I'm not saying it's not what I'm doing as well, but there seems to be a lot of us who are using Dropbox and Evernote and Google Drive And it's almost as if you're waiting for one to drop off and say, well, I don't really like that anymore, I want to use this one. So I think the fact that you're using them all, as long as you're not putting some information in one spot and having to hunt for it in another, that could be a problem. So whatever you're doing, if you're putting it in Dropbox, make sure it's in Google Drive as well. So, Evernote is great. How many do we say are using Evernote? Okay. Evernote is great and it allows you to totally organize. How many of you are really organized? Are you really organized? Or yeah? Good. All right. Try to be. Yeah. I'm not really, but I force myself. Like if you look at my desk at home, it's a mess. If you look at my clothes, they're a mess. You know, everything's all over the place. But when it comes down to my business, I try and organize it as much as possible. But the great thing about Evernote is they have a dashboard. So I've been able to segregate things on the dashboard and say, okay, they call these notebooks. And they say, okay, here's all my listing notebooks. Here's all my upcoming listings, my potential listings. Here's all my existing listings. Here's all the, the solds or the negotiated or what's under. And so it helps me organize that, and it helps our team organize and go through them and look at, tell me what's happening on 245 such and such. Tell me what's happening on Clark Street. Tell me what's happening, and we go through them. And it's great if you are a team, or even if you don't have a team. It's a great process to go through. Every once in a while, just go through everything. How many of you go through all of the clients you have on a daily basis and think about, did I send this to this person, or did I get back to that person? This helps you with it. So it organizes you. Google Drive and Google Docs, as I said, is a wonderful, strong system. And some of you who are office brokers of record, you may find, as we do in ours, is if you need a deal checklist, they're in Google Drive. If you need a document, they're in Google Drive. If you need receipts, they're in Google Drive. Everything is in Google Drive. So those of you who are running offices, instead of having things on different computers, etc., through your office, just put them on Google Drive and give all your people access to it. So everybody in the office has access to Google Drive. Everybody out in the office has all the forms that you need, all the offer forms, all the deal checklists, and everything. So it helps you as an office become more together. This is a friend who runs a program called the Paperless Agent. They're out of Austin, Texas. So all the things that I've talked about, they're little videos that give you as much information as possible about being paperless. And they use Evernote, and they talk about the different document software, and they have videos on every single thing you can think of, plus they have an ongoing set of webinars where they talk about new things coming into the marketplace. So if you have any questions and you want to really get serious about this and tie them down, this is a great place. It's the Paperless Agent. So, questions. One of the questions was witnessing. Somebody mentioned back there. So, with the agreement of purchase and sale, if you're sending it back and forth, you don't have to be there to witness it. Same thing if you have a fax, and don't witness again. Please do not witness something that you haven't actually witnessed. Okay, don't just do the signing on it. The time is of the essence, as we say, when you're dealing with agreement of purchase and sale. So time is of the essence. So what has to happen is, not only do you save, make sure when you do a document, you send back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you get an agreed agreement of purchase and sale, or whatever the document is, make sure you save it, but also make sure you save the history, or what they call in DocuSign, they call it the certificate. And that certificate has a lot of information on it. Make sure that you have that. So it'll have all the times, it'll be very, very specific, and it's a wonderful paper trail for you. And history, again, it's all about the history. So, I went through it very, very fast, I'm sorry. But we've got lots of time for questions. How are we doing time-wise? Oh my God. We have a lot of time. Questions? Yes?
I have 2 quick questions. First
Yes.
of all, about the DocuSign.
Yes.
Does the other party have to have the touch sensitive device to sign it, or can type it or something like that?
Okay. With DocuSign, when you're going to do one of the signatures with DocuSign or Fall2 or whatever it is, it could have a touch screen. You could be doing it on your iPhone, your iPad. However, there's also another option, which is this. You can use your mouse and drag your mouse to sign, or when it knows your name, you have an option probably of about 5 or 10, I'm not too sure, they change it all the time, and you can choose, like, with me it's RHS, my initials are RHS, so it have an RHS and it says choose one that's close to you, and when it's close to your signature, what you do, or your initials, is you save that and it becomes your electronic signature. And what it has is, it says RHS, it's not you who's written it, but it has a specific number, a very long specific number and a barcode. And that goes, every time you sign, it goes with your same signature, and the same thing with your initials. So they do not have, all they need is a computer. They don't have to have an iPad, iPhone, anything. It doesn't have to be touch. Okay?
The second question
Yes.
is about the web forms and the other one, which is DTAP.
Yeah.
I have a web form, I put all my templates, theme packages, everything. Can I, is there any consistency between these 2 systems I can transfer to HTML5 in DTAP? Or?
To, you know, the deal tab I love, but I think you're going to find deal tab. I would say go in right now before you do anything. Take a 30-day free trial on deal tab and try and send documents to one another. Because it is it's a lot more, there's a lot more you have to be aware of with deal tab. I like what it does, but it's not going to be, you know, you're so used to doing things on web forms that the transition from web forms and adding DocuSign is very easy. Transitioning from web forms and going to deal tab, there's a lot more user interface. And it's just going to be, I think, try it first. Even try DocuSign before you sign up, because there is a cost of $199. Before you sign up, try it, see if you like it. Try Deal Tab and see if you like it. Try Fall Tour and see if you like it. I love, I like the combination of web forms and and probably DocuSign is my favorite. Just because DocuSign has been around for a long time, I know it's secure, I know that they've done their homework on it. Yes?
You mentioned that there might be a problem if the 2 clients or 2 sellers have the same email address. Then what would be the problem and what we can do?
Well, because it only goes to the one person. So what will happen is what you could do is you could say, you could send it to David Smith at davidanddarlene.com, let's say, and then you send it to Darlene at davidanddarlene.com. That's how you would do it. But it's much easier if you just send it to one person and then the other person, and they have separate email addresses. And what you have to be very careful of too, this is what's happened a couple of times, and some of you may have had the same experience, is I've sent it to the husband and the wife, and either the husband opens it or the wife opens it and doesn't understand why they cannot see their wife having signed it. Okay? You don't see the other person's signature or initials until it's actually completed. Okay? You see where you have said, you have to initial here, you have to sign here, and I give those instructions and I send them to you. And then I do the same thing with the chap sitting next to you. Each of them sees what they were sent. They don't see the total thing. They say, well, I keep going in and, you know, I don't see my husband's signatures there. When the agreement of purchase and sale is finished, as long as, like if I've sent it out for you to sign, for him to sign, and then back to me, the minute he signs it, it comes back to me. You both. Okay, that's a very good question. So what he said was, you're paperless and you send it to an agent who is not. Okay? So the agent is going to get that agreement of purchase and sale or whatever. They're going to look at it and they're going to print it out, right? And then what they're going to do, they're going to drive over and they're going to sit with their client, or they're going to talk to their client. They're going to get their client to sign it, and they're going to send it back to you. If they send it back to you by fax, and in my case, if you send it to my fax number, it converts it into a PDF and emails me. The minute I have it back in a PDF, I put it back into DocuSign and have my client sign it. So, but if it comes back to you as a PDF or as a fax, you may have to scan it and put it back into the system. Okay, it's not that difficult to do. And when you want to make changes again, oftentimes what happens is you save it to your iPad, your laptop, whatever. You save it as a PDF and then put it into DocuSign and send it off. Okay, at any time you get an agreement of purchase and sale or anything, you get a deal checklist, you get a you know, a mutual release, whatever. As long as you have a PDF, you can put the PDF into DocuSign, decide where the client needs to sign it, where you need to sign it, and then send it to them. And also with one of the things with DocuSign is you can order, you can decide how the order is going to work. In other words, I can send it to this lady, and if she hasn't signed it, it will not go to the man next to her. Okay? Because I've set the order. If I don't set the order and I send it to the two of them, it doesn't really matter. It'll come back, I sign it, they sign it, and it can come back at any time. But once I've set the order, she has to sign it before it can get to him. All right? So you can set up the order, and that's why I say, if you're going to do it and you want it to be a full thing, you may not want to send it to the husband and wife and then to the other agent before you just reconfirm with the husband and wife that what they've signed they're cool with. Just get it, just a double, because I can just see it. It's one of those things that could come back to haunt you. You know, our clients never change their mind after they've signed something, right? Never. But you don't want to go down that road. You don't want it to be a technical glitch that's caught you in this situation. So in other words, you don't want to. You'd rather make sure you've got their approval, and then you get it. You get another question?
Yeah. If you have to counter and
Yes.
doctor change something,
Yeah.
is it easier to do it in a PDF expert and then upload it into DocuSign, or is DocuSign good enough to doctor it in that platform?
I find that it's better if you save, you get the document sent to you, and you say, this is unacceptable, we're not accepting the price, we're not accepting the closing and everything. So you have an option when you look at the document, and it comes to you as a PDF, and all you do is you say, I mean, how many of you have iPads and iPhones? You know how if you get a document, you have a choice of opening it in different platforms? Once you've downloaded the DocuSign app, it shows up on your iPhone or on your iPad. You've got the DocuSign app, and it'll say, allow me to open this in DocuSign. Allow me to open this in PDF Expert. When you open it in PDF Expert, you can go in, you can make changes and highlight them. It's very easy with your finger or whatever, and highlighters and everything, and you can cross out things and add things. It's quite easy to do, and then what you do is when you finished it, you have to save it into DocuSign and then send it again. Okay? It sounds like it's a lot of work. It's not really. Okay? It's just, you know, getting a document, saving a document.
So in line with that, but if someone handwrites the changes,
Yeah.
you get back to use the one with HTML5, which is not PDF. Does that still show up on HTML5?
The one with HTML5 can be downloaded at any time by either party as a PDF.
Oh, you do the signing stuff that shows up in HTML5.
Right.
It still show the handwriting and the cross.
Yes, yeah, what it actually does was the one that would be HTML5, you would get it as a counter offer, and the changes would already be in there. And then you could decide if you're going to accept the changes or not. Yes?
If I need to do an offer on the fly, I always keep like a blank purchase agreement on my iPad, and I'm sitting with my clients, I want everybody to sign it at the same time rather than emailing, because we're all here. What's the best sort of app to use for everybody signing at once?
Well, as long as you have it in DocuSign, all you have to do is open it up and say, here, sign it. And you can have everybody sign it at the same time.
Okay, I don't need to email it back and forth.
No,
We're all there.
no, you can do it. Your options in DocuSign are to sign in person. For you to sign, you have 3 options, and it will come up and it says, do you want to sign this? Are you signing in person with your client? Yes, okay. You can do that. Are you sending it by email? Or if somebody's not there, you can do it that way. You have 3 options there. Yes?
Purchase and sale on Skype, is it?
A witness in purchase and sale on Skype? I don't think so. I would tell you to do it just through, I think you could end up in court on something like that. I would not do it. You can only witness what you witness. I mean, agreement of purchase and sale can come back if it's done properly with the electronic signatures and everything. It doesn't need to be witnessed. It's the same thing as if you were faxing it. If you want to do it and take that chance, you could, but it's not something I would do.
Why? Because it's not
You don't have a paper trail. You don't have a paper trail. What you could do is, you could ask the person who's doing it, who's witnessing it, and say, okay, can you also send me an email stating that at a certain time, a certain date, you witnessed the signature on this document? Yes?
with the receiving agents, the agent on the other side, and you receive the document and it's not witnessed. Would they be questioning whether you did it through internet signature?
No, if it's electronic signature, what you do is you open up the back end and you'll see when the client opened it, when he saw it and everything, when he signed it. It's all there.
So do you have to provide if the other agent requested, do you have to provide half of documents that it was not?
No, I think a good habit for all of us to have is if you're saving the agreement of purchase and sale, as we do, and we put it in a file on our desktop, you also go in and download the certificate or the history, and you save that as well.
This is our sign. Is it legal?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Sorry? Oh, sorry. He said, again, he said, I have an agreement of purchase and sale, and none of the signing people, the signers, are a witness. Is it valid? Yes, it is valid. Okay? Yes?
When you said save in DocuSign, your history.
Or save in, on your desktop, your history.
Yeah.
The broker of record, I'd be saying to all my clients, so my agents, I'd say, if you're sending me a document, an agreement of purchase and sale, and it's been signed in DocuSign, please add the certificate or the history as well. So you need both parts. Not that it's going to be a problem, but it's just, it's a wonderful, when you see those certificates, as they call them, in the back end, where something has been signed and it shows you what time, where, when you see it, it's a thing of beauty, and you just know that if it ever went to court, you would be much better protected than if you just have the agreement of purchase and sale. So save, I'm a big one, save the document, make sure that the certificate is with it.
You actually save it on your own computer file as opposed to leaving it in that Dropbox or whatever, because, well, not so much Dropbox, but if you stop using DocuSign, and you've got all these things in there.
But I would send it to my broker of record. I would send it to my broker of record with, I think if it was me designing the office, the broker of record, I would say, every time you submit an agreement of purchase and sale, I need not only the agreement of purchase and sale if it's been done in an electronic signature, but I also need the history. So you don't give me one without giving me the other. Okay, I think that's it's just a good habit. I don't think that you're going to see that there's going to be big issues with it, but I think it's just a good habit to get into. Yes.
I read on, I guess, one of the Facebook groups yesterday that if you have DocuSign, you use Google Drive on your iPad, you can't open it, or it's not syncing or something.
I don't know. I think the question was if you have Google Drive and DocuSign on your iPad. I think if that's anything, it's just because there's a new iOS and maybe there's a glitch, and 2 days later, 2 days from now, it'll be fixed.
You have that one?
No. Haven't had that problem, but we, in our office, we use Google Drive, we use DocuSign, we use all of them. Don't seem to have a problem. Yes?
Right now I have a Samsung phone.
Yes.
I use a new phone, and I use an iPad.
Yes.
I'm thinking it makes sense to have the iPhone with the iPad to go paperless, it makes life easier. Is that true?
Well, I went over to the dark side about 2.5 years ago. Strangely enough, when I first got into real estate, I had a Commodore 64. Some of you were never born before the Commodore 64. So I had a Commodore 64, and then I had one of the first Apple computers with a little floppy drive. Remember those? So I had that. And then I went, because the Toronto Real Estate Board at the time, Toronto Real Estate Board about 15, 20 years ago when I first got involved with Toronto MLS and all that stuff, and I got on the board, there was a real big issue because a very small number of our members were using Apple and a large number of our members were using PC. And so because of that, we had to really make a decision as to whether we were going to support one or support both. And the cost of supporting both was not what the member, everybody said, well, you should support both, but the 110 people at the time who were using a Mac, you know. So what happened was, as we become more internet-based and more platform-based, like, you know, using Google, using Chrome, you're using all sorts of different things. So we're not, you don't have to designate to be on a PC or to be on a Mac. 2.5 years ago, you know, I got my first iPad 5 years ago, so whenever they first came out, you know, before they were up and running, I had to have it, you know. I got on the airplane and somebody, some kid walked by, like a 16-year-old kid walked by and said, oh look, it's an iPhone for seniors. So I had my first iPad. And then I just got so hooked with the iPad, and then I went to the iPhone. I left, you know, I was just out in Kitchener-Waterloo last week, and I was doing a thing for Korea, and I was in Kitchener-Waterloo, and I looked around and I went, oh my God, what are those things? And realized that they were BlackBerries. So I moved away from the BlackBerry and I went to the iPhone. Now everything is Apple. And the greatest thing about Apple, those of you who are on it, know that whatever you do on one just goes to the other. So if you're on your iPhone, you do something, it goes to your iPad, it goes to your iMac, it goes to your... And it does make life easy. I could do it before, but I used to have to use a PC, special PC stuff that moves stuff from my PC to my BlackBerry to my... With the iPhone, you don't have to. It's just, it happens. You just set it up and you're sharing, et cetera, and all the documents, any place you are in the world, all the documents are on one and the other, etc. It's the way you set it up. So.
Sorry, you're very unfair to the PCs and Windows, because Windows does the same thing.
Windows, yeah, now.
OneDrive, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the Windows OneDrive, yeah. Because I actually use, well, this is actually a Windows product. I'm using PowerPoint. I mean, but we were talking years ago. There wasn't that sort of communication, but it does now. Other questions? So I'm an iPhone guy.
How many people now are paperless and what do you see next year? How many people will be paperless?
Well, so far, if there's 100 people here or 50 people here, I know that you're all paperless, right? He's asking, the question is, how many people are paperless on the Toronto Real Estate Board? I don't think there's a lot at the moment, but it's sort of like, I went through, there's some of you who were through the process of when we went from just having to see everybody face to face to having to do things on a fax machine. There was a big, took us about a year, 2 years until people were comfortable with it, and still people were not comfortable with it, and it just took a long time, but it does, once you get there, it'll make a big difference, it'll make a big change. Any other questions? No? Is that okay time for this?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry if I rushed through it, I didn't know how long we were going to be taking it.
That's fine. Thank you, Richard, for your time today. We know you're very busy, so on behalf of PICRA, we'd like to thank you once again. So please. Now, a couple other things before we let you go. On your chairs, there's a feedback form. If you can please give us your feedback and just give it to one of us. Also, the remarketer folks are by the door. If you have any questions regarding going paperless, please stop by and talk to them. PICRA.ca, PICRA.ca is our website. Please register for our future and upcoming seminars. And once again, thank you to all the PICRA members and board of directors for putting this seminar together. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
If you want to share cards, let me know. I'm up here.